There's a new kind of global competition happening right now, and this one isn't being fought with armies or on battlefields. Nope, it's a battle of algorithms, of data centers. It's really a race to define our future, and whoever comes out on top, well, they're going to shape how all of us live, work, and even shop. So today, we're diving in and asking, who's really winning the AI-powered world? So that leads to the big question, right? In this digital age where tech is power, who are the new superpowers? To figure that out, we're going to unpack three really important pieces of data that together basically map out this entire new world order for us. All right, so first things first, we've got to stop thinking about power in the old ways, things like GDP or the size of an army. The new global arena, it's all about one thing: technological supremacy. Leadership today, it's defined by who can build the smartest AI and who controls the massive flow of digital commerce that runs on it. And that leads us perfectly to our first major piece of the puzzle. See, before we can even talk about who's winning our clicks and our dollars online, we have to ask a much more basic question. Who's actually winning the race to build the most powerful AI in the first place? Now, to figure this out, we're not just plucking one number out of the air. We're turning to a really serious tool: Stanford University's Global AI Vibrancy Tool. And this thing is incredibly thorough. It looks at everything. We're talking 42 different indicators, from research and investment all the way to government policy and even public opinion. It gives us a really complete picture of a country's total AI health. And wow, the results are pretty stark. The United States is out in front by a huge margin with a score of almost 79. China is a distant second, and then you have India. So it's crystal clear. When you look at the fundamental strength, the very foundation of an AI ecosystem, the US has a commanding lead right now. So you gotta ask, why is the gap so big? Well, the US dominance is really fueled by two things: massive private investment and a world-class research pipeline coming out of its universities. China, on the other hand, is playing a slightly different game. Their strength is in the sheer volume of AI patents and publications, and their incredible ability to deploy that tech at a huge scale across the entire country. Okay, but let's zoom out and look at the whole top 10 list, because this is where it gets really interesting. Yeah, you've got the big players you'd expect, like South Korea and the UK, but check this out. You also have smaller but very wealthy nations like Singapore and the UAE. These guys are seriously punching above their weight. It just goes to show you that with smart policies and focused investment, you don't have to be a huge country to be a major player in AI. All right, so the US is leading the charge in building the core technology. That's piece number one. But so what? Where does all that AI power actually show up in our day-to-day lives? Well, the most obvious answer is right there in your pocket, on your phone. And that brings us to the second major battleground: the fight for the global digital shelf. And this is where the story takes a massive turn. It just completely flips on its head. Because while the US leads in developing the AI, it's companies based in Asia that are absolutely dominating the global e-commerce app scene. I mean, get this, a staggering 70% of the top 10 most used shopping apps in the world, they're from Asia. And when you look at the actual apps, the plot thickens. Okay, sure, America's Amazon is the undisputed king, number one. But look at the rest of this list. It's a who's who of Asian consumer power. You've got Shopee from Singapore, Temu and Shein from China, Flipkart from India, and these aren't small players. We're talking hundreds of millions of people using these apps every single month. But let's just pause on that Amazon number for a second, just to let it really sink in. 651 million people. That's how many people use the Amazon app every single month. The scale is just mind-boggling, right? It puts Amazon in a league of its own on the global stage. Okay, so we have these two kind of conflicting pictures, right? On one hand, you have American leadership in the deep tech, the foundational AI. On the other, you have Asian dominance in the consumer apps we all use. So, how do these two worlds connect? How does that AI leadership start to affect who's winning the battle for our wallets? Well, this is where AI steps in and becomes the new kingmaker. I mean, just think about it for a second. When you ask an AI chatbot for a product recommendation or you use some new smart search tool, that AI is basically acting like a new kind of personal shopper, a middleman. It's becoming the main guide, pointing millions and millions of shoppers towards different online stores. So the big question is, who does this new guide like the best? And the data here is really revealing. It turns out Amazon is capturing almost half, 46%, of all the shopping traffic that gets sent from these AI tools. And that's the key insight right there. The AI revolution isn't really leveling the playing field for everyone. If anything, it's making the biggest, most established players even more powerful. And it gets even more concentrated when you break it down. Just look at the top 4 platforms: Amazon, Walmart, Etsy, and eBay. Together, they are gobbling up 78% of all that AI-driven traffic. That means everyone else, all the other online stores, are left to fight over the scraps, just 22%. It's like AI has a built-in bias for the giants it already knows. Okay, so let's step back for a second and put all 3 of these pieces together. What is this data really telling us about the future, about this new global power structure that's emerging? What does the map of this new world order actually look like? Well, it really boils down to 3 main things. First, the US has a really strong lead when it comes to the fundamental AI technology. Second, Asian companies are absolutely winning the global consumer game. They dominate the shopping apps on our phones. And third, AI itself is acting like a kingmaker, basically funneling tons of customers to the players who are already on top, especially a giant like Amazon. So when you put it all together, the big picture isn't some simple story where one country wins everything. It's way more complex and interconnected than that. What we're seeing is American AI tech building the foundation for this whole digital world, a world where Asian consumer platforms are just exploding in popularity. And at the exact same time, that very same AI tech is helping to cement the lead of the big established American retailers. And all of this leaves us with one final, really critical question to think about. This whole combination, the AI development, the consumer apps, the referral traffic, it's creating a brand new kind of power. And it's being concentrated in the hands of just a few countries and a few massive companies. So as AI starts to direct more and more of our world, who actually gets to set the rules?